So, this presentation, What Does Spirituality in Education Mean, was developed by myself, Krista Blow, and my cohort member, Brianna Cohen, of the 2024 Spirituality, Mind, and Body um, Psychology and Education Master's Program at Columbia Teachers College. We're two members of that cohort, and we specifically decided to take spirituality in education as our core, specifically for the fall semester. I took it for fall and spring, but this was developed in the fall. And she and I prepared for this presentation to present in front of our class, Spirituality in Education, a group of about, at that time, 14 members, I believe, students. And I just want to give you an idea of what this kind of looks like, and what how you can be creative in your endeavors and take a various host of experiences to develop what certain things might mean to you in a specific course, specifically this one. So we decided to check in with the students there in sort of a centering, and centerings, and what I mean by centering is doing deep breaths, focusing on stillness, and envisioning certain things based off of guided like meditation is very common in spirituality, mind and body programs and all the classes. Please forgive the noise upstairs. I am at work, so that's the train. So you can see here that it just lists some steps, and we did this with our classmates. Now we got into the readings that we needed to do for the class. So we did look at the scholarship, and seeing what spirituality and education meant to different authors and scholars who had been studying this, and looking at a whole child and social emotional learning lens for how to develop the education in schools. So you'll just see some of the different perspectives that we gathered from the readings and what stood out for the two of us. So you'll also see that there's various types. So there was there were some of the topics we've had were on the systems of support. We also spoke about engaging holistically and evaluating emotions. That is something that can be used as a tool. And then identifying proclivities and tailoring solutions to specific students. So Brianna and I came up with this based on our own experiences, and then we took what stood out to us most in the readings to speak about what spirituality and education meant to us specifically. So students doing this next year, their presentation could look completely different. So the creativity that you can put into this is fantastic. Now, I think this was probably my favorite part. So the question that we asked was, how do systemic and oppressive structures affect spirituality and education? What was so special about Brianna and I teaming up together is that she and I had conversations that really were vast. We weren't even developing the presentation at the moment. We had just gotten together to discuss who we were as people, what our backgrounds were, which were very different. And we got onto the topic of feminism, and myself from a Black feminist perspective, and what that meant to me and what feminism meant to her, and just our general upbringings and our experiences. And of course, if we're both American, we're going to come across systemic and oppressive structures that we were witness, may have been in uh, for me for sure, actually immersed in growing up, and some of the things that Brianna has witnessed growing up. And we were able to discuss that in a very communal, very understanding, open-minded, and very open to each other generally, um, and what those things meant to us. And we were able to explore that. And actually, it fit very nicely into our presentation, because these are the things that absolutely affect children and adults in education. And then we also spoke about the competitive nature in schools and education, and what that actually means. And then we spoke about how, with the general idea that heteronormative families is the standard for education, or for what we teach children about nuclear families, um, that most families don't look like that. So we spoke about how important it is for family support structures, that since they vary, that they all need support, whether they're heteronormative, whether they're single families, whether they're members of the LGBTQIA, it doesn't matter. That all of these families need support when raising children and cultivating lifelong learning and social emotional learning, and really raising resilient global citizens. Uh, my background came from being the president of the PTA of a school that is a Yale Ruler school, and a meta moment was something that we practiced there. So this specifically is from Yale Ruler, and we did an activity. Brianna and I did an activity using the meta moment as a tool, to speak about children, and asking a student what color they're on, which comes from Yale Ruler, and how these colors are associated with particular emotions. So this was actually a really fun part. We used crayons and told everyone to ask, to think of a color, that they're to use the color of the crayon, to think of something that a child may have asked them, and how important it is in that moment, in those meta moments, to to really align with the child and what emotions they're experiencing, and how think about how you're going to respond, because that moment could last forever in a child's mind, in their world, and in their memory, and how they want to remember you as a pivotal person in their life. Now, I am not going into education as a teacher, but I will be working, and I have been working with parents. And social emotional learning is so important, not just for the classroom, but from my perspective, as for everyone to be doing at home, to help undergird the processes that are going on at school, so children have a well-rounded and a an educational support system that has tremendous amount of continuity. That is something that I have taken from the entire program of spirituality and education, and what I inevitably did my integrative project on. So we did end the project, our presentation here. I hope you got something out of this, and that you found it valuable and gave you insight into what spirituality and education is, at the SMB program. There's so much more. This is just a little sneak peek, but this is it from the perspective of myself, Krista Blow, and my partner, Brianna Cohen. Thank you so much for watching.